basketball. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, to read your book and dig into some of that stuff, we'll get into it. But yeah, just a little bit of background about that, where we're coming from is we really enjoy digging into the history of those sorts of things. And um, so we're really excited to chat with you this evening.
Fantastic.
Ladies and gentlemen, howdy and aloha. We are here, you are there, and you are now rocking with the best. Thanks for tuning in to another live episode of ABR. Tonight we're lacing up with author, runner, and Jersey native Lyle Smith, talking all things running, writing, and his new book, Blood, Sweat, and Spikes, The Wetmore Way. Before we get rolling, y'all know the drill. Make sure you smash that like button and are subscribed on YouTube. Drop a comment. Every view, review, and share helps us grow and give back to the sports we love. As always, this episode is fueled by Black Sheep Endurance for all your ultramarathon and nutrition coaching needs. And as always, let's not forget while we're here at Airey Bros Radio, we're here to shine a light on the coaches, programs, athletes, and stories we wish we had access to growing up. If you love New Jersey running stories, Mark Wetmore lore, and distance running culture, this one is for you. As I mentioned, tonight's guest, Lyle Smith, is joining us. He's a two-time high school All-American and a 16-time New Jersey State champion from Bernardsville. He's the author of Blood, Sweat, Spikes, The Wetmore Way, a deep dive into the legacy of Mark Wetmore and the roots of New Jersey distance running greatness. Without further ado, it is an honor and a pleasure to have you joining us this evening. We do greatly appreciate your time. Lyle Smith, welcome to Airey Bros Radio.
Thanks so much, Rich. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, it is an honor and a pleasure to have you, and we're looking forward to diving into the book. It's great to fill in some of the gaps of some of the things that I knew about the history of not only Bernardsville High School, but Mark Wetmore as well. And so we're real excited to dive into that with you. Before we get too far along into it, anything you would like to plug or promote anywhere that people, fans of Air Bros, can find the book, anywhere that you want them to find you, the floor is yours.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can find me. I have an author site at lylesmith.net. And there's a link there to all the social platforms I'm on. Basically Instagram. I have an author page on Facebook, and you can buy the book through that site or link out to, anywhere else you buy books, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, any of your digital purveyors of books, and your physical bookstores will order it for you if you want it. So
Awesome. We will put all that stuff in the show notes for you. Lyle, probably the most important question we're going to ask you this evening, and I think we know the answer, but we're going to ask it anyway. Is it pork roll or Taylor ham?
I was expecting this question. I will agree with one of your previous guests and say, who cares as long as I get my sandwich.
Okay. All right.
But honestly, Taylor ham is the brand. Pork roll is what we always called it growing up. I didn't really know connect it to Taylor ham until later. Someone from the next town over called it that. So again, don't care. Just make it crispy.
Okay. Yeah, heck yeah. Well, Jim, we just made a history on Airey Bros. We have our first new North Jersey guest who claimed it to be Taylor ham or pork roll rather. So
Yeah, let's
we're winning.
we're winning. We'll take that. That's a Dave Santa Maria answer. We'll take
Yep.
that one.
Well, to
Let's
to clarify one little bit, we were sort of not so much North Jersey as the phantom land of Central Jersey.
Oh, okay. There's
It does
another win. So
exist.
there's our second question. Is Central Jersey a real place? And the answer is yes.
Well, because
We
we always thought the moment you cross the Driscoll Bridge, you're in South Jersey. That's what we thought,
okay.
which, may or may not be actually true.
Yeah, we always claim Central Jersey, even though we were South Jersey in
Mhm.
sectionals. And then as we've learned that more and more people say that Central Jersey isn't a thing, now we just say that we're from the shore.
That's fair enough.
Well, one thing I must say before we get into the meat of it, I was telling Rich before we logged on, when I was listening to you read the book, the thought I had was this book is the Sandlot for running.
That's funny. I had never thought of it that way. I could see it though. I can
Well,
see that.
just your stories growing up in it, and like Rich told you, we were kind of raised wrestling, running. That was the only thing on the table.
Mhm.
You're talking about, you didn't play baseball because you got a couple balls thrown at you. Rich had a similar experience. I didn't even go to that, but you also talked about the athletes in your town and how you looked up to them as heroes, and those were your professional athletes. And
Absolutely.
I don't want to speak for Rich, but that's how it was for me. The wrestlers in my town growing up to me were like larger than life. And then when I got in my 20s and now my 30s, I'm like, oh, they're just normal people like me.
Yeah, we were really fortunate to have a pretty strong tradition of running. Even by the time I was just a kid, like I started running when I was about 10 in our local recreation commission sponsored Run for Fun program. That was really run by Ed Mather, was the head coach of Bernards, and but he had all the high school kids would come and coach in the evenings. We'd eventually get to know some of the older college kids who came back to train. It's a small town, so it has all the great things that a small town has, and so you see these guys with success, and they've gone on to run for you know uh, big schools. Buck Logan held the New Jersey state record in 2 miles for years at 8:52. And he'd train with us in the summer all the time. And you get to know him. You're just a kid. You're 10, 11 years old, and you're talking with these guys who are, 18, 20, 22. And it feels like they're, you know, the Yankees. It's like this connection. And the more you get to know them, the more you feel like you belong there. And one of the things I still today even get asked, what was the secret? What was Wetmore's secret? And I'm sure you'll ask about more about him. But and my quick answer is always there is no secret. You just show up on time and do the work. But if you dig a little deeper, I mean, I think that's really what the secret is. You have this sort of sense of tradition, sense of continuity, continuum, um, and like when you're on a cross country team, even though it's really an individual sport, it feels like a team. You don't want to let your teammates down. But when you're part of a longer line of history in the sport, you don't want to let your you know the people who came before. You don't want to let them down. You don't want to let the parents and fans who came out to cheer you on down. And so it feels like you're part of something bigger than just yourself. And I think that's really where the secret lies.
I know you talk about it a little in the book, but did you start running because it was such a big thing in the town and the other sports didn't really appeal to you?
This is sort of there's a couple of different answers to this, but uh, I had really, really bad allergies. I used to say allergic to anything you could breathe when I was a kid. So I was allergic. I had something I was allergic to every season, and severely enough that I got, taken to the hospital in anaphylaxis more than once as a very young kid. And so my parents took me to an allergy specialist down in Philadelphia, a guy named Dr. Wood, who in those days, because I was diagnosed as, borderline chronic asthmatic. And in those days, the treatment was rest. Don't do anything. Don't aggravate anything. And Dr. Wood was of the opposite opinion. He said, the only thing that's really going to get it any better is exercise. Go exercise. Get involved in any sport he wants, and all that kind of stuff. So that's how it gets to the baseball story too, because you know after that, my parents were any sport I wanted to get involved in, they were encouraging me to get involved in. So I tried baseball. I got hit by a few pitches and decided I didn't like that. I got involved in flag football. I could run fast, but I couldn't catch. Soccer I had a little bit of success at as a young kid, but then you have to kind of make a choice down the road. And then there was this Run for Fun program in Bernardsville, in the town, and all the little kids came out to run a couple of nights a week. and they had us try everything. You'd jump in the high jump pits, you'd jump in the long jump sand, you'd try and throw a shot put, all this stuff. And Ed Mather, again, it was the head coach of the high school, and he was sort of legendary, but he had an enormous personality. And I refer to him in the book as sort of the PT Barnum of distance running, because he just got everybody excited about being part of it. And so as a little kid, you're like, yeah, I'll show up, I'll keep going. And and I did okay in a couple of little like recreation meets. And then at one of those meets, somehow or another, my dad ended up walking me over to meet Mark Wetmore. And then he sort of invited me to become part of this team they were putting together, this club that eventually became the My Mountain Road Department. And so that's how I got into the sport. I wasn't really good at the ball sports, and I found I was decent at running, and I like the kids, like the people, and heard the stories. And I'm a sucker for nostalgia, so that's kind of how I got connected to it.
Did you want to ask about the quote, Jim?
Uh-oh.
Which quote was that? I'm not.
Your favorite wrestler?
Oh yeah, I did. I have to give you dabs and ask if you're a fan or you were just looking for quotes for the book. Bret Hart. What made you put Bret Hart at chapter one when you're opening up the book?
I think I was just looking for a quote that fit.
All right.
I hate to tell you. I do. I've always had I've had friends growing up who were wrestlers, and always loved the sport. I was always sort of um, you know, interested from a distance. I never really wanted to do it, but I had again, I think it's a connection because it's an individual sport, but it's connected to a team sport, and there's sort of a single-mindedness to it that I enjoy. So I enjoy watching. But those are the types of people I talked about you interviewed Phil Liggett, um, legendary cycling broadcaster. And so I watch even that in a sport that's been so horrifically damaged by cheating scandals and everything over the years. He still brings this joy to the effort of these guys, and it's a real single-mindedness to that kind of a sport, and that always appealed to me.
So you said you were looking for quotes, so you found that, but you have a couple songs towards the
Oh
end of
yeah,
the
that
book.
was another idea.
Yeah. Were those songs that you fancied? I believe you got the outfield in there, you got the Talking Heads.
Yeah, a lot of these were songs because it is so connected to that time. So the 80s, kind of early to mid to late 80s. And so much of our traveling to meets on buses and everything involved, carrying a boombox around with, cassette tapes. Walkman kind of came later even. And but we'd play it loud on the bus, and so these were some of the songs that were on the bus all the time, and they weren't even necessarily my favorite songs at the time. They were just kind of connected to those adventures we had, and some of them connected to particular people. um you know um yeah, but I remember, the big one, like the Police were huge. The Clash, Clash was always played on the bus on the way to a meet. The Outfield came later. But that's the connection there. And initially I thought I'd kind of quote all songs throughout the whole thing. And then I just got more and more particular about what I was using. So that's where the quotes came from.
Lyle, it's funny this story about the being asthmatic as a
Mhm.
youngster. Growing up, all through elementary school, multiple times a year, I either had upper respiratory infections or bronchitis.
Mhm.
I've made a couple trips to Children's Hospital in Philadelphia as well. I had all
Yeah.
kinds. I was like you. I was allergic to everything.
Yeah.
And I can remember we were at the allergist office in New Jersey, and I played soccer And the doctor came in and he was like, I don't know I don't know if soccer's a good idea. And I broke down, I was crying, and doctor left the room, and my dad was like, don't, you're playing soccer. Um, and so in that time, and when I was in the fourth grade, I had a grand mal seizure, and my mother and my aunt had to do CPR on me until the paramedics arrived.
Holy cow.
And so couldn't figure out what it was. I was on seizure medicine for a
Hmm.
while. And then when I graduated from fifth grade and went to a new school, to the middle school, I wasn't sick ever.
Oh boy.
And then the following year, when I went into seventh grade, the elementary school that I was in was condemned for black mold.
Yeah, that's it. Sick. It's a sick building. Yeah.
Yep.
No, I've had that. I've had um offices I've been in and stuff, and I can sense it almost right away. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, it's not, yeah, and I start to get really
Yeah.
congested and scratchy and all that stuff. Even now, and I'm way better than I was when I was a kid. But this guy, the doctor we went to, he was really kind of a revolutionary in those days. So his theory was if you could strengthen all the musculature around your lungs and your diaphragm, that's going to support any issue you have. So if you end up even if you end up having a reaction or uh, some kind of an allergic something, the musculature will support you enough to keep it from being dangerous.
Yeah.
So and of course, the more running we did, the less that became a problem.
Yeah. Absolutely. Another thing that was really near and dear to Jimmy and I growing up, we used to hear a lot about our pops and our mom and some aunt and uncle that were runners and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, every December 31st, they would make the trip to Central Park
Oh,
to do the midnight run. So
yeah.
that that story in the book is something that really got to us, because my dad, they used to do the centipedes where they were connected.
Oh, wow.
And so like my dad always tells the story as they would, because my older cousin, she was a track runner in high school.
Hmm.
So they brought her along to fill the team, but they would put my dad in the back because he was the best of the group, and he would always tell the story how he would come around, and they were making like a U because he was trying to get to the front of that group so he could push the pace and pull them along.
Oh, that's funny. I probably saw them. I remember seeing that when I was there. Yeah, that was a fun, we had again all tied to Mark Wetmore. He came up with these ideas and trips and races and things that he thought were unusual. And so we ended up going into the midnight run multiple years in a row. And it was fun. We just all piled on a bus. We'd take 30, 40 people to some of these events, and sometimes more. And some of the guys would run hard, and some of the guys would run just for the fun of it and just for the experience. And I remember Brad Hudson was one of our guys, state champion from North Hunterdon,
Yeah.
and he ran it to win more than once. So it was a great, and it's just a way of, a consistent way of keeping your energy up into the sport and your enthusiasm for it.
Yeah, and I think that's so important for younger kids and high school kids is making it fun, making it exciting. I coached cross country down here in South Carolina, and I took the
Mhm.
kids to a night meet this year,
Oh, cool.
just because I thought that would, we did that when I coached in New Jersey. The kids love running at night under the
Yeah.
lights, and it was just such a great experience. So I appreciate that too, of just doing things that gets kids into running and wanting them not only to show up to practice, but ultimately getting them to want to do it on their own.
Right. I'm glad to hear you say that about the night meet too, because we're out here in Boulder County, Colorado now, Niwot, and my son's on the
Oh yeah.
Niwot team, uh, making his way up bit by bit. And they went to the Desert Twilight meet out in Arizona.
Hmm.
That's his first time there. They go sort of annually, and he had such a good time. And I was worried because it's like it's night and it's cross country. Wait a second, there's going to be a hole or a little dip or something. But he had such a good time, and all the kids traveled together, and it was really his kind of first time traveling without us. So it was a nice sort of growth experience for him and all the kids. And it's nice to see that there are events like that still going on. And it's yeah, I kind of wish we did a lot of cool stuff, but that's a fun one.
Yeah. Another fun one they do down here in South Carolina is they do 2 mile, or I'm sorry, they do 4 mile and 6 mile relays, two-person teams. And so
Really?
kind of like I know you talked about Lake Tackanassie as
Oh
well.
yeah.
That was big for us. And the last race of the summer was a 10K relay.
Oh, cool.
And so you would alternate laps where, I would run one lap and then you would run the next lap and we would go till we accumulated 10K. So that's what they
Right.
do down here. I've took the kids to two of those or three of those actually, just because it's a fun way to kind of, you tell them you're going to do mile repeats, they might not be as excited, but you tell them you put a like competitive aspect to it.
Right. Somebody's going to win.
You're pretty much going to get the same stimulus out of them that you were hoping to get in that kind of a workout. So that was
Right. No, it's great stuff. I follow a page on Facebook called it's something like the history of Steve Ovett or something like that, the running history of Steve Ovett. And so they post all kinds of pictures of Ovett, who was sort of a hero of mine growing up. And you realize as part of his training, he did all kinds of cross country races, all kinds of road relays, and all kinds of these crazy events they did over in Britain that, I didn't know anything about growing up. And I'm like, wow, that's really cool. I want to learn more about that.
Yeah. I got one more, Jim, and then I'll let you go. You mentioned Brad Hudson.
Yeah.
So I used to go to the CBA cross country camp in the summertime.
Okay.
And there's an urban legend, and I don't know if you can back this up or put any fact behind it, but there's an urban legend. Internet wasn't a thing, so all we had to rely on back in the day was track and field news.
That's
And
right.
the urban legend is that the most recent track and field news came out with the high school 2 mile rankings, and Brad Hudson was in class, saw the track and field news rankings, and I guess you could see the track from the classroom that he was in, told his teammate he was going to go out and run the top time. And his teammate timed him, watched him from the classroom. I don't know if there's any truth to that, or if that's just old New Jersey running urban legend, but have you heard something like that?
I can neither confirm nor deny that, but I can tell you it rings true.
Okay.
It's because I out here also. Andy Martin
Yep.
is out here in Boulder, and he also state champion, also from North Hunterdon. May have been the one who timed him in this little tale. I'll ask him,
Okay.
but it wouldn't surprise me one bit if that was the case.
Okay.
Because we'd look through track and field. Oh, Bill McChesney did this. What's going on? And off they'd go and try and do all kinds of and Brad was sort of famous for, because he trained under Mark Wetmore when we were young. And the joke was he would do all the Mark stuff and then he'd go home and do a long run because he never quite got enough miles in. But I've known Brad's and Andy and those guys since I was 11. So that's another thing about this sport. It's like all these people I've known and raced against, and um, we're still a lot of us are still friends. And then having written the book, a lot of people have started to reconnect, and it's like we talked yesterday because it has this community element to the sport that's we have this common mud we've all tread over the years, and it's fun. It's nice that way. So yeah, those, like I said, that rings true, that story.
Okay. All right.
That's pretty awesome, Rich. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, that was like campfire story at Colt
Oh.
Camp.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your son and he's on a
Mhm.
killer cross country team, and you
Mhm.
mentioned in the book that there's a lot of sons and daughters of Olympians on that cross country team. Do you see any similarities of what you grew up on and that team?
It's really funny. It's the same. I'll answer that this way. I have people when I go back and visit Bernardsville and visit friends in Bernardsville and whatever, and then leave. People will ask me, "Oh, you went to Bernardsville. What's it like today? What is it different? What's it, how how's it changed?" And I will say, it is so different, but it is 100% the same. And that's kind of like this team out here. There's so much about it. It's like it's a huge. It's the biggest. It's in the big school category out here, so it's much bigger than Bernards. Bernards was a teeny tiny school. Um, but Niwot is a tiny little town, and it has a Bernardsville feel to it for me. Um, a lot of people know each other. You wave when you walk by or drive by. And there's a tradition. So yeah, and the coach is really Kelly Christensen's the head coach, and they really support that kind of feeling of tradition and wanting to do something um, new, something that's never been done before. That was a big thing Mark Wetmore was always big on is trying to come up with something that hadn't been done before. And so that's sort of a sense of the culture here. And there's a lot of love. These kids really get along, and they're all good kids, and they work hard, and they like to work hard. And that's one of the keys. I mean, as a coach, Rich, you'll probably know this. You guys both know this, is the biggest battle is not getting them to show up, getting them to want to show up. And they do. They want to be there, and if they're not, they miss it.
How
And
are
that's a
you?
real
Sorry.
commonality.
Yeah.
How are you as being a father of a runner? Does that competitiveness come out, or do you let him do his thing?
I think I do all right. I don't, uh, I know the coach a bit. I know the coaches a bit. I try not to stick my nose in. I think most of the parents are the same way. We really do. We just want to be supportive in any way we can without being, um, well, without getting in the way. And it's because my opinion, of what I used to train, how I used to train it doesn't have any impact on how they train today, and they do it differently. There's a lot of things that are the same, and there's a lot of things that are very, very different from what we used to do. I mean, we used to put in a lot of miles compared to these kids, um, but they have really high quality miles. So, how am I as a parent? I like to cheer. I like to get to all the meets. I didn't go to the one in Arizona, and you know, I wish I did. But on the other hand, he had a great trip without us, and that's a great thing. So, I try and tell as many stories without being boring as I can.
They just had the Colorado State Championship this past weekend, yes?
They did. It was a great one. The girls won 103 to 108, I think.
Okay.
And Addie Ritzenhein took the individual title. And the boys won with 28 points.
Wow.
Nice.
Dang.
So it was a good day for those guys.
Where was that meet at?
That's down in Colorado Springs. There's a park down there where they race.
Okay.
Um, so again, I did not go to that one. I wish I did, but it's I'm hoping Aiden will be knocking on the varsity door next year, and we'll go to everything.
You talk about Mark wanting to do things that have never been done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in 2025, it would almost be unheard of in New Jersey for a Group One school to win the Meet of Champions,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe even a public school for that matter, even a Group
Right.
Four public school. Um, was it just the training?
No, no, no. The training was part of it, but like I
Hmm.
said, it's all that they like to throw the word culture around these
Yeah.
days. Um, it was, we were a tribe, we were a family. For years they called Bernards the pack because we all ran together. Um, but we had a real familial quality to all of us as, brothers and sisters. The girls' teams were just as good. And, and we were competitive with each other, but we were supportive of each other. We challenged each other. We joked like crazy. We laughed a lot. So, the training's a big part of it, but like I said, it's not just showing up, it's wanting to show up. It's wanting to be there. It's wanting to, because it's like you see a racehorse that's ready to go, right? And they have an energy about them. They can't wait to get out there on the track. And that's kind of how we felt. We were very businesslike about it. We were very businesslike about our approach to it, but it was all of us couldn't wait to get out there and start tearing it up.
How important was the feeder program to all of that?
I to keeping it going, I think it was integral.
Yeah.
And over time, when those things, it's tough to keep those things going sometimes, and over time, um, you know, it starts to hurt. Because you get kids they want to play soccer, or they want to play,
Video games.
lacrosse or video games. Yeah, that was not as big a deal in those
No.
days, because we were always outside. So yeah, the feeder program was important. The two coaches, Ed Mather was the head coach for years, and he had a real talent for making people feel great, making people feel like champions. There's a quote on your website from Lydiard about there are champions walking around all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
They just need to be trained properly. And he really had that sort of an attitude, where that, oh, that kid looks like he could be a runner. Why are you going out for that team? Or why aren't you going out for a team at all? Come on out and run cross country. And then Mark he was a Bernards High graduate and a runner for Ed Mather's teams. And then he came back as a coach, and um, amassed this deep knowledge of, the Lydiard method and everything else in the world he could absorb. He was an utter sponge with what are things that can help us get to the next level. And he had a talent for, not so much, I like to say Ed Mather was sort of a ringmaster, so it felt like a show. Mark really made you feel like you were doing something important. And he was able to, get other people to come out. We had a kid who played soccer, who came out as a junior and never ran track before, came out in the spring and ended up winning the Group 1 800 meters. And then the next year he came back and did it again. And so, soccer players are kind of built for that, in my opinion, because you run 90 minutes a game. There's no excuse for not being fit. You just need to get focused on what the event is. And so he was able to sort of, nudge these kids, convince them, hey, there's something else you could be good at. And out they'd come. And so, the feeder program's important, but that idea of welcoming other kids in who are willing to do the work, or who just want to be part of something. And that's a big thing. Identifying that is a big thing.
Yeah. Yeah, we have soccer in the spring down here, so that's been my sales pitch to the soccer kids. Like, hey, you run further
Right.
in a game than you would in a cross country race. Like, you're built for this. Like,
Right.
and not only that, because it's in the spring, I'm going to help you get in shape so you're ready for
Absolutely.
tryouts, you're ready for preseason. And I have gotten two kids out. My number 2 runner right now is a first-time kid who came out from the soccer team. So
Oh, fantastic.
pretty excited about that. I'm curious, we see the interviews of Mark when he's at Colorado.
Right.
Very calm. He's got this kind of very chill demeanor about him. Was he always like that?
Yeah, he is who he is. He's authentically him as far as I can tell. Um, there are moments when he would talk to all of us, so there was a certain sort of presentational quality to things sometimes. But the one thing people kind of miss out on, I think, not being in it day to day, is just how funny he was or is. He's like I saw him over the summer. He's just hysterically, dryly funny, and has just this enormous mass of references to pull from. He was an English teacher, so he has all kinds of literary things that he brings up all the time, and but he has a very keen sense of truth and a keen sense of humor. So,
Well, you tell a story in the book that really
mhm.
hit home. And I used to have a wrestling coach, and it used to annoy me when he would say this. He'd always say, "This sport is going to teach you lessons that you're going to keep with you for the rest of your life." And I always like, dude, just shut up, right? But you tell this story in the book of you guys had a cross country race in middle school, and you didn't
Mhm.
know about it,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
and you ran home. You weren't prepared. You mentally weren't thinking about it all day, so you didn't want to run. And Mark came and he got you,
yep,
and he talked to you, and he got you to run, and you had a really good race. And
right,
I just think stories like that are so important because there's times in life where we're not going to be ready to do things, but if we just go put our best effort out there, who
right.
knows what you could do.
Right. No, that's 100% true. I have to thank my wife, Heather, for that. Not that story, because the story was in the book, but she really was like, you need something at the beginning to kind of tease this whole thing. And I think it's that story. So she pointed to that one in particular. And so I wrote kind of a teaser version of it as the first chapter, as the intro. And yeah, it's absolutely true. It's one of those things. I was a fifth grader maybe. Um, and I knew we were all getting ready for the Bernards Invitational, which was the big invitational a couple of weeks down the road. And there was a meet that day on a Friday, which was usually just kind of a light day. And I didn't know. And I was petrified to my core and just ran crying home and didn't want to have anything to do with anybody. And somehow or another, Mark came down in his old white van. And it's funny, I'm what, 10 years old, maybe 11, 10, probably 10. Um, I turn 11 in the spring. Yeah. Anyway, so he looking back on it, experiencing it, this is this big mentor kind of figure, this legendary figure in my head. But, at the time, if I really think about it, he probably was only 25 or 26 years old at the time. And so he drove back, found me at my house. My mom sent me out to talk to him, and he convinced me to come back and give it a try. And, in the end, it worked out fine. It worked out great. But, there are those moments where you're like, especially as a kid, you're brand new to the sport. Um, some kids, like my son, that would never happen with my son. My son is just, okay, let's go. I had so much, this idea of this, oh, this is a big deal. And I'm like, okay. But to have somebody sort of, you know, if I had to point to one coaching moment in my life that helped more than anything, it was probably that one.
It's funny you talk about Mark at the time was probably only like 25 or 26 because
But
Jimmy and I talk about it all the time. I have had a wrestling coach my senior year in high school who's still coaching wrestling. And
yeah,
at the time, you're like, it's like an adult.
right,
Now you're looking back at him like, man, he must have just been like fresh out of college, probably like 24, 25. But it's just a larger than life. You
right.
just think of him as like this older adult. But I mean, now looking back on it, now I see him and it's like, oh, we're not really that far apart in age.
That's right. It's right. I mean, he's only 15 years older than me or
Yeah.
so. But it's you think as a kid, you think the adults know everything.
Hmm.
And it's not until you become an adult that you realize we don't really know much of anything any more than anybody else does.
Right.
We're all kind of figured out, and it's just you come across these people who have the knowledge or the confidence to get you over that hump. That's a big deal. I mean, I had a good friend of mine from college. We used to go skiing in the Poconos at his family's house, and his dad used to just laugh at us walking around talking about things that were so important to us as college kids. And we'd say, "Oh, Mr. Glad, what's wrong? What are you laughing at?" And he'd say, "Ah, you don't know nothing until you're 35."
So
I
true.
agree.
So the legend goes, again, you could probably fill some things in,
Sure.
but to my knowledge, when Mark left Bernardsville, he went to Seton Hall.
Hmm.
He was a coach at Seton Hall. I think he might have been pretty pivotal in getting Brian Spooner there from Asbury Park.
Hmm.
And then the legend goes that he got in his car and drove to Colorado and showed up at Jerry Quiller's office and worked his way into becoming the head cross country coach and later the head track coach or the director of cross country and track and field. When you heard that Mark was going to Colorado or had started working with the program, did you think it was going to be as successful as it had
I
during his time?
Yeah, I wouldn't think anything else,
Yeah.
honestly. I was not surprised. We had come out to Colorado for the Junior Olympics in 1980. We actually the Junior Olympics was in Cheyenne, but we stayed in Boulder for a few nights at the Boulder Auto Hotel under the sort of you know mistaken concept of getting used to running at altitude, which you know you can do in 3 days, right? So but we had the experience of traveling, and I was 11. We were just kids, and but Mark always had a sort of a connection to Boulder, to Colorado, and the only other place I ever would have seen him going as a college coach would have been Virginia, University of Virginia. But he came out to Colorado. I don't know the details, but like the Brad Hudson story, all of that rings true. And yeah, he came. He went to the Quiller's office, I guess. Somehow got on as he was a volunteer assistant for a while, and then when Quiller retired, he ended up getting the job. And he had been coaching some of the distance guys as a volunteer assistant. Alan Culpepper being one of them, I think. And you know, uh, combine his approach and his personality with the sort of vibe and personality of the greater Boulder area, and the people who want to come here to run at altitude and run the hills and run the trails. um no, it would not surprise me. None of that surprised me one little bit. He has a gift for making people want to be there. You want to be there. You want to do the work. It's I tell people this, and it comes off as kind of boring, but it's like he was never big on pep talks or inspirational speeches or hated T-shirts with slogans on them. That the girls all did. But when we'd go to the line, the speech was basically, look, you've done the work, you've prepared for this, you know what your job is, let's go out and do it. And that was it. And the gun goes, we take our sweats off, the gun goes off, and there you go. So it comes off as kind of boring, but it's deeply ingrained in all of these people I know. Growing up, I don't know. I say in the book, I never ran with the Buffaloes, but I feel connected to all of them for the same kinds of reasons. Uh, as a fan, if nothing else. So, that's a thing.
And I used to love, they have the pre-meet press conferences at cross country or a post-race interview. And a lot of times, the coaches up there, they have their their gear, all that
Hmm.
stuff. And Mark would always have like his kind of Western cowboy flannel and his cowboy hat and that sort of
Yep.
stuff. And,
Yep.
the only guy up there with the ponytail.
Yeah, and he never, even with us, like the idea of a photo with the trophy and the kids, I mean, we had him in a few, but it's like that he was always kind of uncomfortable with that. It's like the moment, you know, uh I remember we won the Penn Relays distance medley. I was a sophomore in 84. Um and we were so excited and all happy, and the next question was, okay, we coming back to run the 4x8 tomorrow? It's like, okay, that's great, but now it's in the past. Let's look at what's coming up next. And so that's the way it always was. It was just always very it was challenging and forward looking. um no time to rest on your laurels.
You bring up the pen relays. One story that you told in the book that kind of pulled out the heartstrings is when you were in high school, they couldn't give out the watches
Yep.
because the NCAA rules or whatever. And then later on, they started giving them back out. And then you
Hmm.
had two, and you gave
Hmm.
Mark one. And
Yes.
Mark doesn't keep any trophies or anything, but he still has that watch. That you got me with that one, sir.
That got me. I got to tell you, I that came in. That was I had finished the book, and the book's funny because I sat down. My son Aiden started going to summer training here in at Niwot, and as a freshman, incoming freshman, and I had a notebook and I had an hour and a half um, while he was at practice, and I had to. So I just started jotting memories down in this notebook. And by the end of the summer, I had a full notebook, and that became this book. And so I finished the book, and I was like, okay, what are we going to do with it? And the only person I really was worried about, concerned about having any kind of opinion about it was Mark. So, I emailed him and said, hey, I have this project I did. I have this thing I did. Um, I'd love to get your thoughts. And he said, yeah, sure. So I sent it to him. And, like a day and a half later, I get an email back saying, no, everything, you have a really good memory. All of this, I remember a lot of this from a different perspective, but it all rings true. And he made a couple of corrections for me. Uh, One was Arthur Lydiard. Arthur would be, I don't remember exactly what he said, but basically he'd be tweaked if he heard you say long, slow distance. He would say long, steady distance. For Arthur, slow training leads to slow racing. So that got into the book, and then he told me, he said, I'm not one for keeping things, trophies, memorabilia, whatever, but I have your watch. And I was like, that got me too.
Yeah. So I know we're talking a lot about Mark, but there's one
Mhm.
question I want to ask you. You know, we talk to a lot of coaches,
Sure.
and the reason behind this podcast is for our younger selves, right? Looking in the college process. You talk about your time in Villanova. Um, you also refer to a doctor as a mustachio pederast, which popped me. I was eating my
He was one of the
breakfast.
trainers, to be fair, but
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I was laughing out loud. But you talk about your time at Villanova.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we didn't have hindsight when we were in college, right? But knowing what went on when you were at Villanova,
Mhm.
how would you look at schools? What would you look for going to schools to make that right decision?
Then, or what advice would I give
What would
somebody?
you give to
Yeah.
your 16, 17-year-old self?
I question things more. Don't fall victim to nostalgia, or history, glory days kind of stuff. Because I had this vision. I like many New Jersey milers in of my age, was had Marty LaCory as a hero. So I had this, you have this vision of who you want to be and who you want to, compete with over history. And so in my mind, and I had all kinds of, we used to go to the Penn Relays from my first time was when I was a freshman. I went to watch. And so you see all of this Villanova glory at the Penn Relays, and it gets foggy, it fogs your reality to what it was. And it didn't occur to me that the coaching climate would be so different there from the Jumbo Elliott days through to what came after that. And so I never really questioned it. I just said, "Oh, that's where I want to go. I want to wear that uniform." And we had, I had some problems, and I talk about it in the book. From there, Mark probably, somebody asked me this the other day, where would Mark, did Mark ever tell you where he wanted you to go or try to influence? And I said, he never really did. He knew what I had in my mind. And he never tried to tell a kid what to do. He tried to guide him if he could, but I think he would have liked me to go to Wisconsin and run for Marty Smith. But I had my ideas. So my advice would be, question what you know. Be sure be sure the truth is really true, and another thing, and I had this conversation with Pete Carroll, who I talk about in the book. He's the head coach. He's been the head coach at Swarthmore for years. And we were talking about it. He was out here visiting over the summer, and we kind of came to the same conclusion. I said, I always thought of my mile time as like an extra SAT score, right? So it's like if it can help me get into a better school than I might have otherwise gotten into, that's the choice. I would recommend concentrate on the school first and the program second. And that's because I think that's going to serve you better, unless you happen to be one of those very, very few who are able to advance and become a pro, and which is often unpredictable, especially in our sport. Get the best education you can.
Amen to that, Rich,
Yeah.
right?
That's a
You,
clip right there.
yeah. You also, another tugging at the heartstrings. You talked about when you were talking to Mark at some point at Homedale Park. You're at Homedale Park,
Yep.
and he asked you if you had any regrets, and
Oh
you
yeah.
just let it out. And I was like, man. And I started thinking, I had to like, no, you're listening to the book. Stop thinking about your regrets and what you were, because like
Right.
so many times in life, people say, I have no regrets. And I'm always like, that is bullshit. Now, not that like I'm not better off for those
Right.
or I didn't because of those regrets. I've had certain experiences or I've done other things because of that. But
Right.
to me, when someone's like, "Oh, I don't have any regrets," I'm like, You're lying to yourself."
Yeah, no, I think that's true, and you're trying to convince yourself you don't have any regrets. It's like at least in my case, it came honestly. It's like I'm really trying to make myself be better or feel better by saying I don't have regrets. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, there's all kinds of regrets in life. It's how you choose to live with them is what the problem is, where the challenge lies, right? So, and it's funny writing this book. I my friend Jeff Simpson, he said when I told him about the book, he said, "Oh, what is it? Is it a love? Is it a love letter or a cautionary tale?" And I said, "It's a little bit of both." And he said, "Good, it should be." And it kind of is because it's really, I said, and I sent it to him and I said, here, welcome to my, personal therapy session. And that's kind of what it felt like writing this thing. It's remembering these things and trying to, there's a few things you kind of try and set right, like some of these stories, because we get a funny one that I even hear today is how much Bernard's recruited athletes in. They recruited all these track guys in, all these distance runners in to run for Bernard's. And it never happened. There was no such thing as that. We're a 600 student school. Are you kidding me? And I had somebody insist that I was recruited to run at Bernard's. And I moved to Bernardsville when I was 4. So if I was recruited, somebody knew something a lot more than I did.
Mhm.
Um, so you know, I don't know. I've wandered off a little bit on this. I'm sorry, but the regret thing is, for me, working, putting some of these things right was, that's what it was. Putting some of these things right was, like the Villanova story. I always felt like people had ideas about what happened to me there because everybody, whatever happened to that guy? Um, not that I have any vision of people wondering what happened to me, but um, I get questions like that sometimes, and it's like, there was more to the story than people really knew or presumed. So, I try and kind of just tell an honest story. That's all. And that has helped me anyway, kind of work through some of these ideas and you know, tell, try and tell a good tale. That's all.
Well,
You did for sure. So thank
yeah,
you.
yes, yes. Rich, I know we could talk to Lyle all night. We could get into the Melrose game, Van Cortlandt Park, all workouts, but we want to be respectful of his time. You got anything else for
We
him?
don't want to give away too many spoilers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
We want them to go read it.
well, I think there's plenty left in there. We didn't even get into any of the workouts. Um, Final four?
Uh, Lyle, is there anything about you or the book that we haven't really covered that you want to share?
No, I just appreciate you guys taking the time with me. It's been fun. Um like you said, there's a lot more in the book. There's thoughts of maybe some other exploring some other ways because I think we have sort of a missed opportunity in the literature of our sport, right? And I think you guys are filling some of that hole. There's a handful of other podcasts out there filling some of it. There's a few writers out there doing things. For example, I have this one just sitting here right now.
Oh,
Oh,
well,
we
stay
just had
tuned.
him on.
Stay
Chris
Yeah.
tuned.
Lear's Chris Lear, who beat my Meet a Champion state meet record. I'm friendly with Chris. I'm not mad at him. But I think there are a lot of these stories out there, and they're not just about like the championship story. I think it's the deeper stories about the training and the friendships and the connections, and that's kind of missing. Like boxing is a literary sport, horse racing is a literary sport, baseball is maybe the most literary sport in America. Track and cross country maybe even more so has sort of a missing link there in the writing about it, I think. And that's why I wrote this. That's one of the reasons I wrote this thing. And maybe there's more to be done.
Oh, we're excited. I'm here for it.
Yes, sir. So we usually ask our Colorado friends when we have them on. We usually ask them at the beginning of the podcast, but we didn't ask you. So before we get in the final four, I'm going to ask you this one. Rich and I spent 6 years, 5 years in
Okay.
Colorado. Um, do you have a favorite 14er?
A favorite 14er. I haven't I'm embarrassed to say I haven't climbed any of them, but I sit here and I go out every day and look up at Long's Peak
Okay.
every day. And there's something about it. It looks different every time I look at it.
Yep.
So just it's weirdly, I haven't been here that long. I've only lived here 2 years,
All
and
right.
it feels like home. So
Yeah, we miss it.
Yes.
Have you been skiing yet?
not since we've been here, really. I
Okay.
lived in Florida before we moved out here, so I haven't
Okay.
really been skiing much. I do ski. My son is dying to go ski, so we're gonna go skiing this year.
Okay.
All right. First final four I got for you, sir.
Okay,
Are you a coffee drinker?
absolutely.
How do you brew
Triple
it?
espresso.
All right. Right.
No, we have my wife convinced me that we needed a Mocha Master coffee maker. I'm looking across the room at it right now, which was I thought exceedingly expensive. I don't know if it's true or not, but it makes really good coffee.
All right.
Yeah.
How do you take your coffee?
Uh, Cream or milk, no sugar.
Do you have a favorite roaster out there?
Uh, I'm still deciding. We're trying them all. There's so
Yeah,
many
there's a
of them.
lot of them. Lyle, do you have any rituals or daily practices that you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Lyle Smith?
I've heard you ask this question, and it's a hard one. I try and exercise every day. I don't run the way I used to. I run a little bit. I walk and hike a lot. My dog is sitting right here. She goes with me, and my wife walks with me. And we spend a lot of time walking and talking, and that's just sort of a really, for me, it anchors me into being human. Um, I do a bit of meditation. I'm not ritualistic about it. Um, I read every day, and um, I try and get some quality conversation with my son every single day.
Nice. Have you been on Magnolia Road yet?
I have. I haven't run it really, a little bit, not much. But we had this summer we had a group of guys came out. They're former Bernards guys, older than me, sort of my Yankee team. So John Sullivan, Pete Carroll, Buck Logan, and Chris Wilde came out to visit. And we hiked and had dinner with Mark and Heather, and my Heather came with us and all that stuff. And they went over to run Magnolia one morning. Chris ended up doing about 6 miles, I think, and that's it ain't, it ain't easy anymore.
Yeah,
We got a few years under our belts.
I hear you.
Lyle, what are you listening to right now? Music, podcast, audiobooks? What are you reading?
Well, I just showed you I'm reading Chris Lear's Sean Carlson's uh book. That's the running stuff I'm reading. I'm reading a book by Maria Ressa, who won the Nobel Prize, Peace Prize a few years ago, who's a journalist in the Philippines. And so I'm reading that. Um, I listen to podcast. I've been listening to your podcast lately, which has been a lot of fun. But I listened to Preet Bharara, was a former prosecutor in the Southern District of New York, has a podcast called Stay Tuned with Preet about sort of contemporary politics, people who are doing interesting things. And that I listen to. Um, and music wise, I just listen to. I've gotten into listening to some of the stuff I used to listen to as a kid. I saw Rush is reforming to go on tour with a not a replacement drummer but a new drummer, and so I've been listening to some of the old Rush albums that I used to listen to when I was a kid, and I'm like, I forgot how much I liked this.
Yeah, it's good to go back to the old school
Yeah.
tunes every once in a while, reminisce and get nostalgic about running. Whenever I hear "Ramble On" by Led Zeppelin,
Oh yeah.
that one reminds me of again of cross country camp. They were playing that one night in the cabin, and one of the older CBA guys is like, "Listen, this song is about cross country," and he's like, "The leaves are falling all around," and it was like, "Oh," and it just stuck from that point forward.
Oh, this reminds me. I don't know how I got Ramble On to banjo, but um, a friend of mine, Steve Martin, just put out a new record with Allison Brown, their banjo players. And my friend Jody Nardone, who I went to high school with, is the piano player on the record, and it is fantastic.
Okay, all right. We get down with a little banjo down here in South
Yes,
It's
Carolina.
good. It's good stuff. I listen to all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's good to be eclectic. Lyle, last one we got for you to close out is a lighthearted one. Maybe it's a fun, new, unique food item out there in Boulder. Maybe it's one of those tasty craft beverages they serve up so well in Colorado. Um, maybe you like golf, maybe you like fishing. Do you have a guilty pleasure?
Oh, a guilty pleasure. I grew up with a summer job as a caddy in
Oh, me
Bernardsville, so I
too.
play golf when I can. I don't know if that counts as a guilty pleasure, but it's kind of a passion. And movies of all kinds, really. I'm a sucker for a good movie. I sat and I did. They had Turner Classic Movies had a 24-hour Robert Redford movie-thon this weekend, and I just kind of had the TV on all weekend. So it was like whenever I walked in, there was something else another movie I'd already seen that I could just get into at any moment. So movies is probably the guilty pleasure.
Okay. Well, go
You
ahead,
and me
Jim.
both, sir.
Oh
Well, I'm a fiend for movies. I went to school for film and television, so
wow.
I'm a little bit of a film geek.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if you know, I don't know if you're a theater guy, but Back to the Future is now in theaters again for the 40th anniversary. So
Oh, that would be fun.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look for it.
it's an IMAX. It's a good time.
And I have a list. I have a list of like my top 100 movies that I'm trying to make sure my son sees before he turns 21.
Oh,
Nice.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Is it
Breaking
one?
Away is towards the top of the list.
Okay. Yeah.
Is
Breaking
that
Away. What was it? What's your thoughts on Vision Quest? Have you ever seen Vision Quest?
This is funny. I've never seen Vision Quest. I had a friend of
Okay.
mine growing up. I mentioned in the book, Ranjan Sinha, and he was a huge Vision Quest fan. He'd quote it and all kinds of stuff and play the soundtrack all the time. And I never saw it. I gotta put that on my list.
Yeah. Check it
It
out.
seems like my kind of movie.
It's good. It's good.
I don't want to put you on the spot because I hate when people do this to me, but what are some of your favorite movies?
I think about this all the time. Ironically, with the Robert Redford thing this weekend, The Sting is probably my favorite movie of all time, which is
Okay.
not to be confused with my opinion of what the best movie of all time is.
What's that?
Which is harder and harder to get at anymore. It's I I I used to watch Citizen Kane like over and over again, just for every little trick they pulled.
Nuance.
Um, so as far as like a movie education and how to make a movie, that's a great one. Um, the first everybody says the second Godfather movie is better, but I love the first Godfather movie. I think it's a perfect film. Um, so those are the kind, and small movies. I like, High Fidelity
Yeah, that's a good
is a
one.
personal favorite of mine. I love the book and then I love the movie. Um, I that's hits it. I don't know.
All right.
Breaking Away is hard to beat for me anytime. The Commitments,
That's a good
That's a
one.
good one.
so I don't know if there's even a trend in here, a trend line to find what type of movie I like because they're all different types of movies. But my wife is big into um, she loves fantasy sci-fi type stuff, so we watch a lot of that. I'm less so, but there's a lot of movies and even bad movies. Like I always say, Caddyshack is maybe the best bad movie ever made.
Mhm.
I
Yeah. Have you going in the line of Breaking Away? Have you seen American Flyers?
have. I have. That's another one. It has some weak points, but it's
Yeah.
really it's a joy to watch.
Yeah.
Do you
I love
have
that opening sequence where he's riding his bike. I think it's Manhattan, right? He's riding through the city and rides into the elevator. That's like I just love that sequence.
Yeah. Yeah.
so sorry,
Go
Rich.
ahead. I was just gonna say Quicksilver is another one with Kevin Bacon when
Oh, that's
he's
another
the
one. Yeah,
bike messenger in New
with the
York.
fixed gear up
Yeah.
and down the hills in San Francisco. That's amazing. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So I never get to ask a runner this question. What
Hmm.
Prefontaine movie you going with? Without Limits or Prefontaine?
Fire on the track.
Yeah.
I think Without Limits is a better film than the other
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
But it's hard, you're doing a movie about somebody who's so unique. All the great cheer to Billy Crudup, but it's hard to do that guy justice,
Yeah.
you know?
So we had Fire on the Track taped. Rich taped the Prefontaine Classic the year that they played it before the
Right.
Prefontaine Classic, and then he
Oh
went to
no.
college and he lent it to someone.
Oh no.
And so it didn't we didn't get it back for years later till you could buy Fire on the Track, and then
Right.
my dad finally bought it and we had it. But that was like such a heartbreaker for a little bit.
Oh, I know. There's because they not everything was digitized, you know.
No.
So some things are hard to find.
Yeah.
Chris Bennett, if you're out there listening, you're the one that has that Fire on the Track tape.
That's cold.
Lyle, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for writing this book. If you're listening, make sure you go pick up this book. It's a must read or listen in my case. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And yeah, this was a great conversation, sir.
Oh, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. It was a joy to put it together, and I'm just glad people are finding it of interest.
Yeah, it was a great book. It's great to get into the lore and the history behind not only you but the program, Mark. So if you are listening, like Jimmy said, go out there, check it out. You won't be disappointed. Lyle, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We do really appreciate your time. It was an honor and pleasure to chat with you, get to know you a little bit, and we look forward to more stuff in the future.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you go check those links in the show notes. Go grab a copy of Blood, Sweat, and Spikes, The Wetmore Way. If you go check out Lyle on the socials, let him know the Airey Bros sent you. We will be back next week. We're going back to New Jersey. We will have Mike Tercy. He is the head cross-country coach at Brookdale Community College. We'll be talking about all things NJCAA again. And then on Thursday evening, again, we'll be talking NJCAA, but it is getting down to mat season. So we're going to be doing an NJCAA coaches preview for some of the top-ranked teams in the junior college ranks. That is all for us this week. We hope you have a great rest of your week and enjoy your weekend. Until next time, we'll see you.